Chilly here with Sirius Dallas Moon, Mercury Hour, Soul Nights. Mercury retrograde 19 degrees Pisces, ascendant with Spica. Midheaven with Procyon, which is a good time to call on Spica and Procyon. Moon is separating from an opposition to Venus and applying to ingress to Libra and oppose Neptune and Saturn. Now, there is a relational reality check, particularly after the eclipse, after the lunar eclipse with Moon Ketu and the solar eclipse with Venus Rahu. We are evacuating toxic relations. And this is on all level of relations. There is no power to overpowering. It's not attractive. It's not, how should I say that? It doesn't bring safe, sane, joyous, loving, thriving relation. And people are no longer, particularly with the solar eclipse of the moon and Rahu Venus and the lunar eclipse and still Rahu Sol, Pallas Athena, and Venus still in the background co-present. People are no longer looking for, and Venus is closing a cycle with Uranus in Taurus. People are no longer looking for the excitement as what was. We see it also in celebrity culture. They're not looking for the gaslighting psyops, love bombing, dramatic up and down, and weird, devaluation, ideation, suddenly being angry, thinking that somebody owes somebody, thinking that somebody punishes somebody. That's toxic. It's not about judgment, but that's being evacuated like detoxification. And it also pertains to the relations between people and anything at the point of power. That was the meaning of the Epstein list. The collective consciousness is no longer consuming that which is. And this is also why we see the overextension of power. The attempt to hold on to power, to overpower, to create tyranny is, power doesn't need to exert itself. But when power tries to exert itself, it is a loss. It is already losing power. Now, with Saturn Neptune, definitely there is dissolution of old structures. Saturn being invisible, taking away certain structures with it. And the new is something that's unprecedented to trauma bond, misplaced arousal, violation of boundaries. No, people want regulated nervous system, embodied, secure attachment, an actual healthy relation. So much so that they're actually distraught, bugged, wanting to purge that which is becoming nuance to them, not because of the person, but because of the pattern of relation, because of the lack of respect and honor to the sovereign self, the sense of self, the sense of embodiment, the need to be empowered, the need to prove something, the egoic people have tired of that. All across the board, there is a gigantic calling for people to people. And those that have mastered the craft of, whether it's Machiavellian or Luciferian or something that definitely held a certain position of power, that is, at least what I see is that applying that with this configuration on people that to begin with wanted relation that is safe, that is sane, that is free, that is respectful, that is honoring, that is not coming from an ego or trying to overpower perspective. Now, people can have the gift of grace, but they also need their sovereignty and freedom. People can go into the deep and understand what created, let's say, Mark Luttrell with his estates, with the relational patterns, with the psyops, with all the troubles. And just because they don't hold a position of anything other than a call to change those realities, then the detoxification is very powerful. The friction that toxic behavior creates is immense. It's no longer tolerated just because people no longer do with, oh, that person's narcissist or that person or that person. On the contrary, it's entire global structures that were based where people can see the holistic connection between the patent of developing psyops, the patent of creating fractures within the personality, the patterns of creating people that are addicted to enslavement, overpowering, always having to be at the position of power, always having to have the one up, the egoic thing. Now, it doesn't mean that there is no benevolence, but if that benevolence falls into suddenly being enraged horrendously to almost a lethal way, then that's something that definitely um, needs the point of interference or the gift of grace or a place where it can change, but it's also not something that comprise the relations that people seek, whether at work, whether at home, whether with their boss, whether from inspirational figures, whether with the colleagues. Um, and particularly when I can see in the air, in the energy of somebody that has been trying to reach, trying to reach out through other people, um, but through violation of boundaries. Now, either it is the person trying to reach out or that there is some sort of a paperclip experiment going on. However, there is something there that's, how should I say that? The attempt to siphon energy is what people flee from. And it's the entire, those are entire occult practices. People call it spiritual warfare for a reason. Now, people have tired from the Dante LaVey Aleister Crowley. Nobody wants that anymore. Nobody wants it. People want love that is actually loving. People want sensuality that is embodied. Uranus is at the end of Taurus. What was exciting to people that were deprived is no longer. People want to actually, even when it comes to food, people want food that is actually nourishing. And also in the secular world, even the connection with the divine is through the gnosis of Magdalena, the gnosis of Sophia. Those that try to create, to siphon energy, to reach out through an egoic, a violating, a overpowering. Somebody always needs to be in a position of power to the point of destructing anybody that they try to relate with. And it doesn't matter what is the position of power. But now the world sees it more as those Epstein lists. And wants a relation that is actually open, vulnerable, safe, sane, and has really tired of what is not. Has tired of people that try to have the one up, to prove something, to fight, to, how should I say that? To be conflictual with Aries, live and let live. And there has to be housing, food, opportunities, sovereignty. There's no excuse. Because it is so visible that all that was draining on the energy was doing that from a point of deprivation, creating deprivation. And there is some sort of a reality check. People are frustrated with all those MK often, MK ultra, MK this, MK that, all from our opportunities, from our housing, from our joy of living, over nothing. Trying to hold on to power so much that to make people try to make people live in fear. The contempt and disgust that should be turned to the energy companies that created that amfuckery. Not to the people that do not contend with that. The ostracization of people for I don't know how long, from whether it's academic opportunities, housing opportunities, job opportunities that are actually jobs, not informant, not Nazi paperclip endeavors, not trafficking type of And people have tired of that, particularly of these power plays of, if they don't do it in under my condition, under my this, under my that, then they will not be in the industry, or they will not be. People have tired of that. They're no longer consuming that anymore. And the more the reliance on scare tactics, overpowering tactics, confining tactics, the more contempt people has towards those that practice those practices. People want those type of toxicity gone from the world. Again, not the people, the behavior, the patterns of relation. That which people mastered for I don't know how long is not attractive in today's world. No, and it's not about, it's not about beauty standards. It's about the glorification of something that is incredibly toxic. There's a difference between beauty standards and actual secure attachment. Of course, toxic beauty standards is something that we all want to purge from the world, and we saw how it's related to the dark occult, the Epstein like, the Epstein list. Ain't nobody got time for people that are walking around wanting to do Dante. Mercury retrograde in Pisces, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. They can be eurekas where people may come back or try to come back to the life of other people, but if they don't show up as honoring, respectful, consistently on all levels of being, energy, physical, mind, emotion, supportive goals and dreams, zero bait, then there's no point for that. The moon is opposing Saturn from Libra, which is a reality check on relations. Again, like I said previously, those who will particularly suffer from this set of eclipses are those that are still stuck at projecting their lusts, their desires, their egoic, their toxic patterns of relations, and believing that that's desired and attractive. And this very likely happens with individuals that did tremendous amount of shadow work to purge these toxic patterns of relations. That they're genuinely and authentically not interested in anything toxic. They don't play ego games, and they don't allow ego games to be played with them. Now, this set of eclipses is really testing that we are where we want to be, in the sense that if somebody was trying to reach out, they really need to be in that, able to participate in and provide safe, sane relation. We're gonna have situations where people are called to detach, to dematerialize toxic relations. So we're gonna be running into rejections. We're gonna be, and not all of these rejections are power plays. Sometimes authentic rejection. Um, and we're gonna be running into people really not wanting to be, let's say, more than friends, or people not really feeling related in a particular way, or people not being attracted, or people wanting more in their life than something, let's say, casual. And with the weird experiments that are happening to do with Nazi occult and paperclip, if people were involved with siphoning energy or doing rituals that are using the life energy, there was there very likely they're doing things that there was no consent to. And it backfires. And this is because of those residues of always having to be in power, always having to be in control. Doesn't work with those eclipses. The people that still have not recovered from patterns that are projecting their own, whether it's lust, whether it's basically some sort of a toxic pattern of relation, and believing that the other person wants that, likes that, enjoys that. No, they don't. In fact, they are seen as perpetrators. And if they were committed to dark communities or dark practices, the people don't want that anymore. People see through that and they don't want that. People see through with the people that try to trauma bond them, and they're like, no, they're setting standards. And that exposes more and more and more and more layers of both new and old things. Okay, again, I looked at the Rolodex, and then there was, oh, the father of Melissa. Why did he not want Dutroux to talk about the network? And oh, something was in 2008, right about the Epstein. Some people in Australia discovered a Peter ring, and the material was from Netherlands, involving the um, the lawyer that represented the families of the victims of Dutroux. Oh, wait a second, Dutroux was on welfare. He definitely needed that after being molested, meeting a pedophile at the age of 15. Oh, wait a second, he basically had no venue for housing, therapy, and so on, kind of like his victims. Wait a second, that means that Melissa went out of Dutroux's estate to her father that didn't want Dutroux to talk about the network. Okay, that's the level of perception. Oh, wait a second, there was no competing Peter Ring that wanted to expose Mark Dutroux. He couldn't even be a state witness. So that was kind of like really monopolistically. There's only one company that's that much of a monopoly, Standard Oil. But wait, don't the duchies have like ESO or something? Okay, that's the level of precision and thinking that people are coming to their senses. And purging any type of basically those psychic attacks. People don't want to be around people that sacrifice people. And that means the fundamental structure of literally so many layers of society. The moon ingress. And we can feel the grand missing because these things are more These things are more evident now. And anything that represents that is not so tolerated. Particularly anything that tries to bring the world to that. The world did not spend decades learning about emotional intelligence, shadow work, secure attachment, embodied presence, inner child to participate in Luciferian rituals. And people expect that from even consultation related fields. The loosening grip that caused an attempt to overpower shows up in its existential crisis. The father daughter. Okay, just think about how many segments of the world still live in the illusion that having a daughter is less desired, or that a daughter is parentified or partnerified, as well as boys, okay, as well as sons. People want safe relation. And the more projections people had, whether they were devaluating, derogatory, and so on and so forth, the more they exposed themselves as addicted to watching trafficked people and children. It's not porn, it's rape movies. People never consented to that. And the rage, the proper rage should be towards those societies which rite rituals were forcing people to watch this stuff. Declassified projects that forced people to watch this stuff, that psychically attacked people. deluded Nazis that were running paperclip and still partaking in those things.